Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Danilo Caprick here, aka still the best dressed man in tech sales. And in this video, we're gonna go over how do you write and construct a very good prospecting email. All right, not just any email, but a highly effective, really good prospecting email. And we want to do this today because there's a lot of conflicting advice around what a good prospecting email looks like. A lot of people are saying, should I include this in the subject line? Should I not talk about this? Should I ask for time at the end? Don't worry, we're going to address all those questions right now. All right, guys, so in this video, we're going to cover 4 elements of a highly effective prospecting email. And when you put these 4 elements together, it's going to really enhance the likelihood of getting a reply. So the first element that we want to start with is the subject line. All right, and when it comes to subject lines, we want to keep these brief. We want to keep them 4 words and less. All right, and the reason we want to do that is because whether they're looking at it on the computer or their smartphone, 4 words is very simple to read and it's easy to glance at. Within a second, we can see what the email is about. All right, keep it brief because if it's long, it's either going to be a turnoff, we're not going to read it, or we're not going to have time to read the whole thing and just delete it right away. Okay, so that's the first thing. Keep the subject line short if possible. The other thing when it comes to subject lines is try to use what I like to call cliffhangers. All right. Have you noticed when you're watching a movie or especially a show series on Netflix or anywhere else you might be watching shows, they usually end the episodes on the high intensity climax, right? The most exciting part of the show. And then they cut to the credits and they say, tune in next week to see what happens, right? That's the kind of psychology we want to apply to our subject lines by using cliffhangers. And the easiest way to do this is by using phrases like, has anyone shown you this? Has anyone proven this to you? Have you seen this? Did anyone tell you about this, right? Because when we say things like, are you open to this? Have you seen this before? Did anyone show you this? Their first thought is going to be, am I open to what? Has somebody shown me what? What is this thing that you're talking about? Right? So those are some of my favorite subject lines to use that have been very effective because again, we're using that cliffhanger effect and counting on psychology to have the prospect say, I wonder what they're talking about. Let me click in there and find out more. All right? So keep them brief and use cliffhangers when possible. That's going to help you really get your email opened as quickly as possible from your prospect or client. The other thing, guys, when it comes to subject lines is we want to avoid some key things. All right, number 1, do not put your company name in the subject line and do not put their company name in the subject line. We want to avoid this, you guys, because this is what very amateur sellers do. This is what people who are in their first sales job, they don't really know how to put together effective emails start doing. So what it does is this has created a conditioned response amongst the buying community. What I mean is when you see an email that says company name or vendor name and their company name, they automatically know it's a sales email and they're just going to hit delete. All right. So don't put your company name or the prospect's company name in the email because that just gives them the signal that, hey, this is a sales email. Let's just delete this and keep it moving. All right. So avoid that practice whenever you can. All right, guys. The second element that we need to discuss is preview text. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look in your phone right now and look at the emails that you've been receiving. You're not only going to see a subject line, but you're going to see about 4 to 8 words of the first sentence of the actual email. This is the preview text, and this is really important, you guys, because this is going to further entice the prospect or the reader of your email to open it up and continue reading what you wrote, right? So for that reason, we also want to be a little cliffhangery, right? And entice them with the curiosity to continue reading. One of my favorite ways to do this is by pointing out observations about them. So for example, I might say, hey, saw your LinkedIn post, made me think of these 2 ideas, right? When they see saw your LinkedIn post, they might think, which LinkedIn post are they talking about, right? Let me see what they're talking about. Or I might say, saw your company announcements, had 3 ideas to share with you. And we're like, what announcements and what ideas is he talking about, right? Or, hey, heard your interview, thought about X, Y, and Z. What's X, Y, and Z, right? So again, guys, we want to find a way to make it personal so it's about them because everyone's favorite topic is themselves, but also find a way to make it a little bit like a cliffhanger that they want to continue reading, all right? So lesson number 2, guys, the preview text, make sure you're strategic about that and you entice curiosity so that they continue reading your email, okay? All right, guys, so element number 3 that we want to cover is the body of the email, all right? And a couple of guidelines here. Number 1, we want to make this no more than 3 sentences, okay? Because we've already got a sentence up top. We're going to have our call to action at the bottom. The body needs to be very succinct. We do not want to write a lot of paragraphs. We want to write sentences with lots of white space, okay? So the first thing is keep it brief, no more than 3 sentences. I know it's hard, but this is the way we have to email in 2023 because nobody has time to read a block of text, okay? Nobody's trying to hear your story. Nobody wants to hear your marketing pitch. They want very short, concise sentences. So keep it brief. Now, number 2, when it comes to the body of your email, you want to try to focus on 2 things. Either a problem that they want to avoid, or a consequence they want to avoid, or an outcome that they want to achieve. Why? Because this is what the psychological principles tell us, guys. I don't know if you ever heard of the pleasure and pain principle, but that tells us that people tend to go towards pleasure and tend to go away from pain. And we actually know from psychology that people have a stronger affinity to avoid loss than to go for gain. So if we can talk about a consequence that they want to avoid, or a situation that they want to avoid, or a potential problem that they might not even know about, that's going to be very effective in the email at getting a response. At the same time, we're all measured to hit certain goals and metrics in business. So if we can talk about the outcomes that are important to them or the metrics that are important to them, guess what? That's going to also increase the likelihood that we get a response to our email. So within the body, we're going to keep this fairly open, but you want to generally focus on outcomes that they want to strive towards or problems or consequences that they want to avoid. For example, maybe they want to not risk getting in violation of compliance, right? Maybe they want to avoid losing revenue. Maybe they want to avoid customer churn, whatever it is. Find the things they want to avoid, find the things they want to strive towards, and include those in the body of your email to get a higher likelihood of response. All right, guys, so now we get to the call to action. I'm gonna have a very controversial opinion on this because most people will tell you you need to have something that gets them to wanna meet with you at this point. You need to ask them for 15 minutes of time. You need to have something that says, hey, would you be open to having a conversation? Can I get 30 minutes on your calendar to talk about XYZ? Stop. Stop. That is so old school. That is how I was taught to write emails in 2015. The game is different, y'all. The game has changed. We cannot ask for time on the first email. Why? Think about your email inbox. If some stranger from some strange company that you've never heard of asks you for 30 minutes right now, what are you gonna say? You're gonna say no. You're gonna say no because you have a conditioned response in your brain that when somebody asks you for 30 minutes on a first email, what is it? That's sales. Ew, not interested, delete, right? So we wanna avoid that conditioned response, and instead of asking for a meeting on the first email, we want to just start a conversation. All right, so we need to reframe the goal of this email in our mind from getting a meeting to getting a response, all right? And the best way to get a response at the very end is by asking a simple, easy question, okay? And you might be like, well, isn't that why I want to meet with them? You know, I'm gonna ask them a bunch of questions when we actually meet, so I should go for the meeting. No, guys, think about it. If you go for the meeting, you're not going to get the meeting because guess what? People automatically associate that with sales. So instead, start a conversation, come off as a human, and ask a simple question. Question might be, hey, have you ever thought about this? Hey, has anyone ever shown this to you, right? Going back to our subject lines, we can end on that same kind of call to action. And basically what that's going to do is increase the likelihood of getting a response because guess what? We're not asking for a lot. We're only asking one question, and the effort necessary to reply from the prospect is very minimal, right? We're just asking, has someone told you about this? Has anyone shown this to you before, right? It's very easy for them to say, no, haven't heard of this, or yes, I've heard of this. Now you have a response. The second you have a response, now you really open up the door for a conversation and you're in a better position to get the meeting. So no matter what you hear from your sales trainers, avoid asking for the meeting on your first email, okay? You can ask for the meeting later on, but on the first touch, you guys, avoid that. Stop it. It's the easiest way to just activate the other person's conditioned response and say, oh, this is sales, delete, all right? So for that reason, change the goal of your email from getting a meeting to getting a reply. And you'll find that if you go the reply route, you're going to get more opens, more replies, and probably more meetings with more qualified prospects because believe it or not, when they reply, you can actually do a little bit of discovery before you meet with them anyways, all right? So that's the final piece, guys, the call to action. Do not ask them to meet on your first email. Instead, conclude the email with a simple, quick question that is relevant to the body of your email. All right, guys, so there you have it, the 4 elements of a highly effective prospecting email. We talked about subject lines, preview text, the body text, as well as the call to action. And I promise if you put these 4 elements together in a nice way, you're going to greatly enhance the likelihood of getting opens and responses to your emails. That said, guys, hope you enjoyed the content today and got some value from this. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. And also, if you're not doing so, follow me on LinkedIn, tell me you watched this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy now.